The evolution of the CB radio is a journey from niche technology to cultural phenomenon, especially in American trucking. Invented by Al Gross in 1945, the CB initially catered to farmers and the Coast Guard. By the late 1950s, advancements made CB radios smaller and more affordable, opening them up to truckers and hobbyists. In the 1970s, CB radios saw a boom amid the oil crisis, helping truckers coordinate protests, share fuel prices, and warn about speed traps. This era birthed a unique subculture with its own slang, music, and media portrayals. Despite the rise of mobile phones, CB radios remain crucial for off-roaders and disaster preppers. The CB's legacy is its blend of practicality and pop culture, cementing its role in the trucking community and beyond. Much like the surprise of finding an empty highway, the CB radio became a lifeline for truckers, turning long hauls into a community affair. It wasn't just about logistics, though. It was about camaraderie and beating the boredom of endless miles. The 1970s trucker was as likely to discuss road conditions as they were to chat about the latest Smokey and the Bandit movie, all while giving a 10-4 along the way. Even today, CB radios keep their charm, proving you don't need Wi-Fi to stay connected on the open road. On this very special episode of Truckin' Up History presented by Liquid Trucking, we're going to discuss the evolution of the CB radio. So strap in, because we're off and rolling on this episode of Truckin' Up History.
Welcome to the gold standard of podcasts for the gold standard of drivers. This is the Liquid Trucking Podcast with your host, Marcus Bridges.
The year 1945. The man, Al Gross, mobile communication extraordinaire and inventor of our beloved Citizens Band radio. Prior to his invention of the CB, Al became interested in the walkie-talkie, which was invented in 1937 by Donald Higgins. This interest led Al to create and patent his own version of the walkie-talkie. Al Gross's contributions to communication technology extend beyond the CB radio. His work on walkie-talkies, pagers, and other wireless communication devices laid the groundwork for many modern technologies. Gross's vision of accessible, reliable communication for everyone continues to influence contemporary communication tools. The principles he championed were ease of use, affordability, and widespread accessibility. But we're not here to talk about the walkie-talkie, which is the method of wireless communication that brought me the most joy as a kid. We're talking about the history of the people's radio. Al's worked on a successful and at the time top-secret two-way encryption-free air-to-ground transmission system for the OSS during World War II. The success of this project led him to secure funding from the FCC for the Citizens Band radio, which used similar systems. Needless to say, CB radio technology took off and became extremely popular, though in the beginning mostly with farmers and the U.S. Coast Guard. CB eventually became so popular that cartoonist Chester Gould approached Gross to approve the use of a miniaturized version of his tech in Dick Tracy comic strips. The result? Dick Tracy's two-way wrist radio.
I'm on my way.
The cultural impact of CB starts to unfold from there. At first, the CB wasn't exactly accessible to all. Ultra-high-frequency radios were, at the time, not at all practical or affordable for most people. However, after 1958 and into the early 60s, CB started to become more reachable to the masses. Radios became smaller, not quite as small as Dick Tracy's wrist radio, obviously, but they were lighter and less expensive as well, thus opening the market up to hobbyists and truck drivers alike, as the radios could easily be outfitted to operate in a truck cab. By the late 60s, this communication method, formerly reserved for specialists, had brought people together to form CB clubs and create CB-specific slang. The booming 1970s brought us many things: polyester, mustaches as exhibitionism, and mainstream trucking culture. As things seemed to crumble into the disco days, though, the CB radio seemed to thrive. In 1973, CB radio culture exploded as the gas crisis commenced. The feds imposed a 55-mile-an-hour speed limit for both passenger and commercial vehicles alike, and you thought being governed at 70 was a pain in the rear. Drivers during this time banded together to warn each other of upcoming speed traps, even going so far as to organize blockades and convoys to protest the speed limit and other regulations trucking saw due to the gas crisis. The CB was also used amongst truckers to keep each other hip to stations with the lowest gas prices. A post-Vietnam America saw people feeling disconnected and disengaged. Unemployment and divorce rates were up, as well as the number of people living alone. Some of those looking for a sense of community gravitated towards the CB to make sense of an increasingly confusing world. CB communications helped people feel rooted in their relationships as our culture became more transient. To facilitate its growth in popularity and users, the FCC expanded the amount of channels available from 23 to 40. Around the same time, CB radios saw the invention of one's own CB handle as they're known today. Originally, the use of CBs required you to have a specific call sign that came with your purchase of a license to operate the radio. As the popularity of CBs grew, people began to ignore the rules and created their own call signs or handles. Lax enforcement of those licensing rules saw the loosening of other CB laws as well, such as those regulating antenna height and distance of communication. The FCC eventually relaxed many of the rules, recognizing the impracticality of strict oversight given the sheer number of users. Such a stick-it-to-the-man attitude and a disregard for the rules ultimately made way for the CB to be officially permitted as a hobby by the FCC, as well as causing necessary licensing to devolve in the 1980s. This deregulation helped foster growth of the CB community, allowing for greater freedom and creativity in how CB radios were used. Trucking culture was huge in the 1970s. Everywhere you turn, there was a new trucking-themed song or show or movie. Everyone in and outside of the industry were affected by the allure of the road. As the FCC called to make CB radioing an official hobby, many scrambled to their local radio shacks to get their hands on a CB radio to emulate their favorite pop culture drivers. CB radio technology didn't just revolutionize trucker communication. It also found applications in various sectors, including farming, emergency services, and even entertainment. Farmers use CB radios to coordinate activities and share information about market prices or weather conditions. Emergency services, such as local volunteer fire departments and neighborhood watch groups, adopted CB radios for their reliability. In addition to its recreational use, CB radio technology found a unique place in law enforcement and emergency services. Police departments and emergency responders utilize CB radios to enhance their communications capabilities, particularly in rural or remote areas where traditional radio infrastructure was lacking. This application of CB technology underscored its reliability and versatility, proving crucial during natural disasters and other emergencies when other communication systems might fail. The influence of CB radios extended beyond practical use. It also permeated popular culture. Movies like Smokey and the Bandit in 1977 and TV shows like The Dukes of Hazzard showcased the CB radio as an essential tool for the characters. These portrayals helped glamorize CB radio culture, making it seem adventurous and rebellious. Songs like C.W. McCall's Convoy in 1975 further solidified the CB radio's place in the American cultural lexicon, celebrating the camaraderie and the lingo that came with it. But like all things that seem to eclipse the zeitgeist overnight, the CB radio's popularity saw a swift decline. Its novelty began to wear off when trucking's cultural appeal became passé to the public. Much like social media, you know something's no longer cool when the First Lady of the United States hops on board. Betty Ford had her own CB handle, and it was pretty much all downhill from there. Jokes aside, the CB did see its downfall in the 1980s into the 90s due to the increasing popularity of mobile communications, aka the cell phone, the car phone, a little thing we call the internet, etc. Ultimately, and obvious to us now, the cell phone proved to be a more stable and convenient way for people to communicate while landlines were out of reach. During this decline, laws surrounding the CB started to tighten once again, and states started to crack down on when you could and couldn't use your CB radio. The CB became used for non-emergency situations only, and thus mostly reserved for hobbyists and old-school truckers and old-school trucking enthusiasts. The CB radio's impact on the trucking industry cannot be overstated. Beyond facilitating logistical coordination, CB radios fostered a unique subculture among truckers. This subculture was characterized by its own language, music, and even fashion, all of which celebrated the independent spirit of the open road. Truckers use CB radios not just for work, but also to combat loneliness during long hauls, sharing stories, jokes, and forming bonds that transcended geographical boundaries. Truckers, often facing long hours in isolation, found companionship and a sense of community through their CB radios. The ability to communicate with fellow drivers helped to alleviate the monotony of long trips and provided a support network for sharing information on the road conditions, weather, and mechanical issues. This camaraderie was particularly vital during emergencies where immediate assistance could be coordinated through CB communication. Moreover, CB radios played a critical role in the logistics of the trucking industry. Real-time communication allowed for efficient route planning and adjustments, helping to avoid traffic congestion and delays. Dispatchers could provide updates and instruction to drivers on the move, optimizing delivery schedules and improving overall efficiency. This capability was especially beneficial during the fuel crisis of the 1970s, when conserving fuel and maintaining tight schedules were paramount. The trucking industry's reliance on CB radios also influenced the development of trucking regulations and policies. The widespread use of CB radios highlighted the need for standardized communication protocols and frequencies, leading to regulatory changes that facilitated smoother operations. Additionally, the trucker CB community often served as an informal monitoring system, reporting safety violations and road hazards, thus contributing to safer driving conditions. Culturally, CB radios elevated the public's perception of truckers, portraying them as modern-day cowboys of the highway. This image was reinforced through media representations in films, television shows, and music, which celebrated the adventurous and rebellious spirit of the trucker. The CB radio became a symbol of independence and resilience, capturing the imagination of the American public and fostering a sense of mystique around the trucking profession. During the 1970s, the trucking industry's CB radio culture also influenced the broader American lexicon. Terms like Smokey, Bear in the Air, and 10-4 became widely recognized, transcending the trucking community and entering mainstream usage. This lingo not only facilitated clear, concise communication among truckers, but also contributed to the distinct identity and camaraderie within the trucking community. The CB radio also facilitated the organization of grassroots movements among truckers. For instance, during the 1973 oil crisis, truckers used CB radios to coordinate protests and strikes against fuel prices and shortages. These actions demonstrated the power of CB radios as tools for collective action and advocacy within the trucking industry. In modern times, despite the advent of advanced communication technologies, CB radios remain a staple in the trucking industry. They provide reliable, low-cost means of communication that is not dependent on cellular networks, making them invaluable in remote areas with poor signal coverage. The enduring presence of CB radios in truck cabs across the country is a testament to their lasting impact and the deep-rooted traditions they have helped to establish within the trucking community. The evolution of CB radio technology mirrored advancements in electronics and communication. Early models were bulky and required significant power, but as technology advanced, CB radios became more compact and efficient. Innovations like the integration of the single sideband allowed for greater range and clearer communications, enhancing the ability of CB radios in various environments. These technological improvements made CB radios more appealing to a broader audience, contributing to their widespread adoption. As humans, we're prone to nostalgia. We're in an endless loop of out with the old, in with the new, and in with the old again. So it's no surprise that CB radios have had a recent resurgence. For instance, off-road enthusiasts and outdoor adventurers often rely on CB radios for communication in areas where mobile phone service is unreliable. Furthermore, CB radios have seen a resurgence among disaster preparedness communities who value their resilience and independence from traditional communications networks. While social media sites like YouTube have encouraged interested hobbyists to delve into the rich world of the CB, people have adopted the radio for other purposes as well. Most notably, a lot of backcountry hikers and campers have started to use the CB in order to maintain connection to the civilized world. Since the pandemic, interest in prepping and survival has peaked. Many who are interested in these practices have adopted the CB as a method of communication in case of emergency, like having to go underground due to a nuclear crisis a la blast from the past. With these niches, searches for CB radio stores have shot up as well, breathing new life into an almost forgotten local business. Modern CB radios have even incorporated numerous technological advancements to stay relevant. Features like Bluetooth connectivity, integration with GPS systems, and improved signal processing have made contemporary CB radios more user-friendly and versatile. These innovations have helped CB radios maintain presence in specific markets as other communication technologies dominate the mainstream. mobile connection has proven to be a bit more spotty than initially thought. Parts of the country still have little to no cell service, and it can be a bit scary for drivers to be disconnected from their sense of safety while on the road. CB radios, some now updated for the 21st century with things like Bluetooth capabilities, are still the number one way to maintain safety in remote areas. Ask any veteran driver, even someone who's only been at it for a few years, and I'll bet they'll have a story about how their CB surprisingly helped them out of a sticky situation. In closing, the evolution of the CB radio is a testament to human ingenuity and the enduring desire for connection. From Al Gross's groundbreaking work in mobile communication to the vibrant CB communities that emerged in the 70s and their subsequent adaptations in the modern era, CB radios have left an indelible mark on society and on trucking. As we look back on their history, we're reminded of the profound ways in which technology shapes our interactions and the importance of staying connected regardless of the medium. That's going to wrap it up for this episode of Trucking Up History presented by Liquid Trucking. I've been your host, Marcus. Thank you all so much for being here today. And until next time, this has been Trucking Up History on the Liquid Trucking Podcast. Stay safe and keep the shiny side up, drivers.
Thanks for tuning in and being the gold standard of drivers on the road. Be sure to like and subscribe to the channel and tune in next week for another episode of the Liquid Trucking Podcast.